did you remember that flash crash just a few weeks ago when the Dow fell almost 1,000 points in less than an hour? Well, now the SEC and regulators are trying to figure out what happened and how they can prevent it. Fortune's managing editor Andy Serwer here to weigh in on all of it. So, Andy, what the SEC is doing is they're going to start this pilot program until December, where they're going to add these circuit breakers to all of the S&P 500 stocks if they fall more than 10% within 5 minutes.
Flash crash. I thought it was a new dance craze you were talking about. Basics, the
you
flash
like that
crash.
name?
I do, yeah.
The flash
The
crash.
flash crash. Well, it's actually really scary stuff, let's face it. And, again, the regulators behind the ball here, these high-frequency traders, and believe me, this stuff has been going on for years and years. A lot of people were saying that this was a disaster waiting to happen, and we got off easy. And it happened, and, it scared the bejesus out of everyone. But, luckily, we didn't have any lasting damage. But it really shows that, like derivatives, regulators don't understand and don't have their arms around a very significant potential problem.
Looking at the SEC, Andy, fundamentally, okay?
Yeah.
They're coming out full force, all teeth showing,
Right.
full aggression here.
Right.
You look at the Goldman fraud case that the SEC has. You look at them making this move. Is the SEC back with a vengeance?
Yeah, here comes the cavalry, right? I mean, I think it's, there's no question that they're being more proactive under Mary Shapiro than they were previously. Chris Cox, right. And if you look at what was going on in 2008 in the crisis, and you really start to read some of the books and the accounts of what was going on, the TikTok, and, Hank Paulson, the former Treasury Secretary, his frustration of Chris Cox saying, you're the gang that can't shoot straight, all manner of criticism. And, whether or not Chris Cox was ineffective during that period, and I think he was, maybe that's a question of debate. But the proof is in the pudding in terms of the record of the SEC, in terms of Madoff, in terms of oversight of the big Wall Street firms. It simply was not there.
But does the SEC, Andy, in your opinion, and you talk to all of these business leaders, all the heads of these companies, do they have the respect for the SEC that the SEC needs to be effective?
I think the answer is no. I don't think they do have the respect, and I think part of that is because of years of negligence and years of a lack of oversight. And, sure, I think the thinking is if you were a real bad guy, if you were running a bucket shop out on Long Island or something like that, you were going to get caught. But, I know criminal defense attorneys who say, they go after the little guys, the easy stuff. I mean, look at what they did with Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, spending all that time and money going after him while Madoff was just wandering around scot-free.
And then they lost that case against
Cuban.
And
they lost him. And even if Mark Cuban was doing something wrong, it's a question of resources. Do you really want to go after him when Markopoulos is giving you things to read about Bernie Madoff?
4 times,
Hello?
4 or 5 tips on Madoff?
What's going on?
But to that point about resources, I was in Chicago recently talking to the head of the SEC's Midwest division. They look at 9 states across the Midwest, and I simply said, do you have enough resources? And they said no.
They're outgunned.
And I said, will this happen again in terms of talking about major fraud and Ponzi schemes? And they said yes.
Well, sure, there's always going to be crooks out there. And, they don't have the resources, no question about that.
Can they blame it on that, though, Andy?
But you know what? I think they need the political will, because if you get someone in there, like a Teddy Roosevelt, a trust buster with a mindset, I think it's possible. Also, let's face it, you're in a Democratic administration now. You should be able to get more resources from a regulatory standpoint. So I think that, yes, maybe they're starting to pick things up, but, from my standpoint, it's about time, right?
Yeah, it is, and we'll see what this new circuit breaker rule does, what effect it has. We don't know when it starts. We do know it ends in December, so it's a pilot test.
And, and we're going to talk about regulatory reform, I'm sure, coming up over the coming days and weeks. And, there's pushback from the GOP leadership on this. But let's remember, Lloyd Blankfein himself said in Senate testimony, we need more regulation. When the CEO of Goldman Sachs says we need more regulation, I think we might need some more regulation.
We'll see. We'll see if we get it in the right kind of regulation.
That's it.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Poppy.